PR Connections Radio presents. This episode of the PR Connections podcast is brought to you by Classy Communications PR and Advertising. Classy Communications provides public relations and marketing solutions for businesses, professionals, and nonprofit organizations. They can deliver the true meaning of your business with press releases, social media marketing, web development, email marketing, book publishing, and much more. Wherever your potential clients are, they can help you connect with them. Visit classycommunications.net to learn more about their suite of services that can help your business stand out from the rest. Classy Communications is your solution for business success.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second half of the PR Connections podcast. My name is Guy Dawson. I am your host. I'm having some technical difficulties here because, give me 1 second. I guess maybe it's because it's interesting that I am not able to. Give me 1 second and I will be. I do not understand why I am having the challenges that I am having getting my full screen here. I want to welcome you all again to our podcast. Just trying to figure out these. I'm trying to. Give me 1 second and I will be right back. All right. Well, I don't know why I'm having the technical difficulties that I'm having, but then again, all of you, welcome back to the PR Connections radio marathon. I'm Guy Dawson and I'm your host. The first half of our podcast was a smash. We had a lot of great shows that we aired, and I'm hoping that I can work through these technical difficulties. Let me bring James Pasudich in and see if. Wow. Hey, how are you, James?
Great. How are you?
I am fantastic. I am not sure why I'm having the challenges, why we're not a full screen. Give me 1 second. Oh, all right. There we go. There we go. All right. Well, welcome, James, to the PR Connections Marathon. And all of you, by the way.
How do I leave the screen? How do I leave?
You don't leave. I don't want you. You just stay where you are. All right. Welcome, everyone, to the second half of the PR Connections podcast. This is operator error, by the way, that caused all of that, but I'm glad that we were able to work through it. And now you're going to be watching the PR Connections radio podcast, which is the podcast that started all of this back in 2011. I had a radio show at a local radio station here in Las Vegas called KLAV. Big shout out to KLAV. They're in a completely different format now. I believe they are in a Spanish format actually now. But back in 2011, I was given my start in the radio business. And it's just been an incredible journey over the last 14 years. It's 14 years that I've been a broadcaster at this point, starting from having a monthly radio show called PR Connections over at KLAV to now having our own streaming network that is broadcasting these shows all over the world. It has just been an incredible journey. But this show was created to showcase people like James Pasudich, business owners, people who ran nonprofit organizations. We had a lot of celebrities who came on the show, particularly a man who just passed away a few weeks ago. George Foreman was actually one of the early guests that I had on that network. George Foreman, rest in peace, heavyweight champion, the person who started George Foreman Grills. If it was just George Foreman Grills alone, the fact that he invented those, or he didn't invent them, but he was the person who marketed those, that would be enough to be a great man, because I love George Foreman Grills. But anyway, we had so many great people who came onto that podcast. And again, here we are 14 years later. I still have the privilege of being able to interview people. And one person who I had interviewed many years ago, James, you made an appearance when we had the show back at KLAV. You were in studio for that many, many years ago. James Pasudich is an educator and a copywriter and someone who's soon to have a new podcast on the network. Welcome, James.
Thank you, Guy. Glad to be
Back
here.
then, had you ever done an in-person radio interview at that point back then?
No, that was my very first time. That was the very first time, and it was fun.
Yes, right. The opportunity to do something that's a kind of unique. I know for so many people that came on the radio show that we had, it was the first time they'd ever done it. They'd never been in a studio before. And for us, it was all about creating a unique experience for people. And of course, the interview was excellent. I know we were promoting your copywriting business at that time. And so for people out there who don't know what a copywriter is, what does a copywriter do?
A copywriter does a lot of things, but basically, a copywriter writes for business. A copywriter advertises, writes emails, blogs, white papers, case studies, anything to promote or help your business, and write in a way to reach the business person's audience or potential audience. So it's used to inform, persuade, and sometimes even entertain if we can do that as well.
So what made you want to get into copywriting?
Well, I've always enjoyed writing, and I started at a very early age. I started writing poems, and I was hoping to maybe be a musician because when I was a kid, my creative outlet was I would listen to music and then read their lyrics, and I thought lyrics were just fascinating from a lot of bands. And I never took up an instrument, but I would always just go in my room and just start writing. And later on I became a teacher, and then I thought, okay, well, what do I do? Something, as teachers, we always have a side gig or something. We have extra time, at least during the summer, and usually with money, we try to supplement our income. And so teaching is very fun and very fulfilling and everything. But then I've always thought about, okay, what can I do on the side? What can I do, to satisfy my creative outlet? And you can't really make a living being a poet unless you're already somebody. And so it's my creative outlet, and I also want to help businesses, and I also want to help myself become a business person, and being able to, and we talked about this before many times over the years, because we've been friends for years, of just making that transition from being an employee to being your own employee, being your own person, your own entrepreneur, your own business person. And it's always a struggle. It's a big struggle for me, thinking that, going from being an employee to an employer, like when you have your own business, you're always on call. You're always, you don't have a day off per se, but you're always thinking. Even as a teacher, I don't really have it. I mean, I have a day off, yes, but I'm always thinking of some ideas, or, you know what I mean? So it's just trying to make that transition. And there's nothing wrong with having a job. There's nothing wrong with what they say, a job, having a job, but it's always nice to expand your horizons a little bit. And so I thought that's the way to do it. And I enjoy writing, and I enjoy being creative.
Yeah, we have a similarity, James, in that prior to opening, the company that really started all of this is Classic Communications, a PR and a marketing company, advertising company that I founded back in 2008. But the precursor to developing that company was me going through a copywriting course. And in terms of really understanding your customers, understanding advertising and how it works, and persuasion when it comes to getting the word out about what you do. I believe that copywriting is the cornerstone of that. So before I was an effective social media marketer, back in 2008, social media was a lot different than it is now. But the copywriting component, just for me personally, being in the business that I'm in, even being in public relations and marketing, and then having this network where we also do a lot of marketing, that fundamental foundation that I got from the course that we took. We can just give a shout out to the organization, AWA.ai, America.
Writers and Artists and Artists
Yeah,
Institute.
outstanding course, fundamental course that teaches you a lot about how to market. And so, James, getting that course under your belt, like I mentioned, it really set me up to be more effective as a marketer through the years. What do you think? Did the course do a lot for you too?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was, it was a gradual, movement in terms of like what it's more than just writing, and there was a lot more involved. It's kind of like when you look at businesses now, the branding, the message, with branding and social media. It's when people see your trademark or your logo or your message or your business, what is the message, what is it about? And then also about like targeting. When you write, you have to have a target audience in mind. You have to cater as much as you can, to that target audience. So it's not just simply writing, it's having that audience in mind. It's using the right words. It's finding out what stage is that customer in terms of, are they just thinking about it? Are they just doing some research? So it's developing that relationship between not just your potential clients or customers, but just the community in large. It's not just taking and making money. It's giving back. It's mutual. It should be mutually beneficial. So that's I just look at it as like, the headline. The headline is so important. The first couple of lines, the first couple of words. And with my students, I say the same thing with writing essays. The title. It's the title. It's the headline. It's the hook. And I tell them, when you watch a movie, the first 5 minutes of the movie is crucial. So why is there always a car chase at the beginning of a movie, or an explosion, or something interesting? That's the hook. That's the hook. And now that you have them hooked, what do you do with that? Then the story gradually starts developing, and usually it's kind of a gradual, okay, now things are developing. And so I use that as something that parallels writing.
Right. Yeah, there's a framework. There's a
Mhm.
framework for the way that scripts are written. As you mentioned, there's a framework for the way that we are marketed to. Yes, there's always, nothing's left to chance. Very few things that we experience in life in terms of advertising and marketing and scripts and podcasts things aren't done by accident. There is absolutely a hidden framework that most people don't understand, but that's used over and over and over again to create influence. And that's essentially, as a marketer, that's what we're doing, is we're trying to influence your decisions, different types of decisions, be it your purchases, your viewing habits, such as what we're doing here with these podcasts. Definitely the things that you do as a copywriter are so critical. But being an educator, tell people about your background in education.
I've been a classroom teacher for about 27 years now, and English teacher, and I really enjoy it. I still enjoy it. Some years have been kind of tough. I've taught at many different types of schools. I taught adult ed at the Las Vegas Detention Center for about 8 years, and that was great. It was a great, fulfilling experience. And I had my schedule changed, so I reluctantly had to give it up. But I find that everything in society, this classroom reflects everything in society, and society reflects everything in the classroom. So even though I'm in the classroom, I see what happens and how things are changing. Some things for the better and some things not. I see all the challenges, and I know that as a teacher, I have to be aware, and at least aware of and sensitive to all the changes in the world, and all the challenges. And the first year or so, I thought I knew it all. And then as you get older, you realize, wow, how much I did not know. So I think of again, like I approach teaching now as more of that entrepreneurial spirit. Like, what do these kids need? What can I do best for these students that are going to be our future police officers and teachers and surgeons and all, everything. What can I do for them? And teaching is so multifaceted. Like every year you go, okay, well, what are my goals for this year? What did I leave out? What did I not do very well? What are some areas in which I can improve, and which areas in which I can make changes and do things even better. So I really look at it as, again, starting out, it was a job I had to do, and I try to do it. I try to do a good job, and it's overwhelming. But now I realize all the obstacles, all the challenges, that is just part of the job. And you can't wish it away. It's like challenges. We're always going to have challenges, whether it's now or 20, 30 years from now. We're always going to have different challenges, and you take one day at a time.
Teaching is really, it's such an honorable profession, in my opinion. I mean, when you're someone who molds the minds of young people, teachers have so much influence on all of our lives. I know for me, James, there are teachers that I had back in elementary school who the lessons that they taught me at 8 years old, 9 years old, 6 years old, 11 years old, I can still hear their messages or the lessons that they taught me in the back of my head, so many years later. I don't think that we really grasp in this society how important teachers are to to our people, the population, how affected our population is by our educational system. What's your perspective on that?
Well, I agree. And I didn't think I would be a teacher. When I was a kid, when I would talk about 8, 9, 10 years old, I wanted to be a relief pitcher in baseball, because I would watch games on TV and see these guys kick their feet up, chewing bubble gum, or some were chewing tobacco, and sitting down and go, I can do that. I'm still in the game. I'm still involved in the game. But no, I got burned out of baseball, but it's still a great game. But I think the same thing. I have students. I know that some students just did not like me, and that's okay. We didn't connect, and that's okay too, because you're not gonna connect with every teacher. Not every teacher's gonna connect with you. But I feel the same way. I remember I had a great college teacher. College English teacher who was very influential. I had a few other teachers in high school and in elementary school that I can look back on and say, I remember that. I remember Miss Sims in 6th grade. We made chocolate covered pretzels. That was the assignment. And why do I remember that? Because it was so different. It wasn't even it wasn't even a cooking class, but we did that because it was just something way out of the ordinary. It was great, but obviously the money is not, it's not you don't go into teaching for the money, and a lot of teachers quit because of the working conditions. And the working conditions, although there's different factors about it, but it comes down to a lot of decisions and a lot of people who are making decisions who should not be making decisions. And again, it's the working conditions. How much money you make as a teacher, or how less money. It's about the working conditions. So that's my main motivation is for the podcast is not to lay blame, not to destroy the public education system, but to have an open dialogue and talk about the issues and talk about what's really happening and make reasonable changes and reasonable solutions.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's just so much discussion about the teaching industry. And in modern society, what I see a lot of, I talked about it in my opening monologue, James, is the different types of education that are being provided nowadays. Back in the old days, we sort of just considered going to school as your primary form of education. But now with things such as these podcasts that we have on our network, and the world is just, there's just, millions of different people offering perspectives. You have your formal teaching structure that still exists that educates children, but now there's this whole new world of education through all these different podcasts and shows and the internet. You've got educator and copywriter as two of the things that you identify yourself as, and pretty soon we're going to add podcaster to that. So how are you going to take these two concepts, being an educator and a copywriter, and develop a podcast?
Well, like you just said, there's education is changing, and people are using podcasts and videos and all these things to enhance education. And I think that's a great thing. I think that's really my motivation is to have a discussion and talk about, how can we implement these changes? And it goes back to what Howard Gardner says. I'm paraphrasing. It's not how smart you are, it's how are you smart. People have different strength, different set of skills. Like I am book smart. I am a little somewhat street savvy, but I'm not hands-on smart. I'm not, putting something together or fixing a computer or, stuff like that. But other people are. And there was a study done about 20 years ago, and it's probably still true now, that the majority of the high school dropouts were kinesthetic learners, learning with their hands, being athletes, music. And so because school did not appeal to them. Now, there's one thing about not having your way and not being able to deal with not having your way. But there's another part of what's in it for me too. Again, like with copywriting, when people read stuff, what's in it for, they got to find out what's in it for me. If you're not giving your audience, you're not giving the students something that is beneficial to them or anything substantial, again, they're going to think, what's in it for me? So I want to create this podcast and take what I've learned from being an educator, being a copywriter, and embrace the changes and the challenges, going forward, and also being able to listen to one another, because there's too much talking and not enough listening. Too much, we can hear people, but we're talking over people. I could tell for like the past 4 or 5 years. So you and I, we're both Toastmasters, but when I talk to other friends, I talk to even other colleagues sometimes, people interrupt me all the time. It's like I'm not done talking. I'm not. And I think that's a great metaphor for our world now, is we're talking over one another, we're talking at one another, and not with one another.
Absolutely. Communication is just so critical. And as you mentioned, that is definitely one of the challenges that we have in modern society, is that breakdowns. And there's a lot of reasons for all the breakdowns that we're having in communication, but it's worth the effort to continue to promote it and to encourage people to communicate with one another. What are people going to see? Do you have a name for your podcast?
Not yet. I haven't decided. I'm playing with a couple of titles. I was going to ask if I can use you have Classy Communications. I was going to do something with maybe the word class, since it's about school, but you might sue me with a trademark violation. Like keep it classy or have come to class, or I don't know. I still haven't decided.
Right.
Whatever the suggestions.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Anybody out there have any suggestion, not subjections, suggestions, totally tongue-tied, about how James could name his podcast? What will people be seeing when they tune in?
Well, what I'd like to do is interview people, but I want to talk about every episode will be about some issue that is education related, but it's also society related. Again, like, as we talked about with a lot of the communication breakdowns, a lot of issues, a lot of problems that we want to discuss, and possibly find some solutions. Again, my intention is to talk about what teachers go through, but not only that, but also have an open mind and talk about solutions.
Absolutely. One of the things that I've always appreciated, and I've spoken with you about this many times, James, is that when I have conversations with you, and I'm sure others, I always appreciate your willingness to not close your mind to things. And I think that some of the breakdowns that we have in communication all over society, within families and politically, and when it comes to religion, and just so many topics where people become very entrenched in their ideas as being right, and it's the way that it is, that it's simply a lack of seeing things from the other person's perspective, an unwillingness. Not to say that you have to agree with another person's perspective. Right. You don't. We've all got ways of looking at the world. We're affected by many ways in our perspectives of the world, but at the same time, I think so many of the breakdowns is the unwillingness to even give the other side any credence, any credit. And when you do that, that really puts up that wall. Mm-hmm. Where there's no interaction. And that's where to me, that's what causes wars and so many of these different things that separate us as humans.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, I know I've made mistakes, and I know that I'm going to make mistakes. And I know that when I watch, that's why I watch Fox News, but I also watch Bill Maher's show, I listen to my libertarian podcasts. I watch CNN every now and then too. And when you listen to somebody from that you don't agree with, most of the time they'll say something that makes you think, oh, okay, I didn't consider that, or I didn't look at it in that way, and okay, that kind of I could at least appreciate that, and then use that as a foundation, because I know that for most people it's like we must agree, we have to agree more than disagree. I mean, nobody, at least none of my neighbors or my family wants war. We don't want people in poverty. We don't want crime. Most people would say we don't want that. So right there is most of us have at least a solid foundation from which to start, right? For us to start a conversation. But like you said, we're no, it's this or it's an either or, the either or fallacy. And that's one of the things I want to talk about too, is again, like those things, logical fallacies, either or, generalizations. I get stuff on in the past on Facebook. I would be called, you're a MAGA, just a MAGA. Like, no, I'm not. I don't worship Trump. I don't worship anybody. I don't. when he does wrong, I'll call it out. Simple as that.
Right. Absolutely. Yes. The stereotyping, right? Or yes, getting so locked in on again, that your perspective and not looking at the bigger picture when it comes to people. People are complex, situations are complex, and so James, I'm just really looking forward to hearing about some of the perspectives that you offer on your podcast. Again, we're still really in development, but and what the name of it's going to be, but I know that you will be successful in communicating your ideas to everyone through it.
I appreciate that, and definitely, and I'm looking forward to it. And again, I am for common sense. I'm also open to open-minded. I am open-minded because I know that I don't know everything, and I know life has humbled me. I'm sure it's humbled you too, right?
It's over and over and over every day, James, every day.
Right.
And if people wanted to potentially bring you on to help out with copywriting services, how could they reach you?
www.jamespasutichcommunications.com.
James Pasutich, he is an educator and a copywriter, a good friend of mine for many years, who's going to be bringing a podcast to the network very soon. Tune into prconnectionsradio.com to hear some of his perspectives, which I think you're really going to enjoy. This man's a thinker, and he's got a lot to say, and I know you're going to be very successful with this endeavor, James.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And thanks you for the
stopping by. Yeah, thanks for stopping by the marathon.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that was the PR Connections show that you just watched, my interview with James Pasutich. We're going to step away for a second and honor one of our sponsors. We're going to come back, and we've got Talks with Toy, another one of the newer podcasts on the network that's getting a lot of exposure and providing some really entertaining episodes. Stay tuned. We'll be back after this short break.
Get $50,000 plus in funding without using your social security number and without putting up collateral. It's simple, it's easy, and best of all, it won't affect your personal credit. Just use promo code PRTalk when you reach out. Click the link in the captions now. Or call 702-210-4201 to speak with an expert. Funding made simple. Let's get you started today.
We are back with the PR Connections Marathon here at prconnectionsradio.com, the voice of new media. By the way, we do want to encourage all of you to subscribe. Those of you that are watching on YouTube, to subscribe to our channel, and you can get notifications. We've got about 13 shows, and we've got several in the works. We're a growing network, and we would love for you to be notified when you can tune in to one of the great shows on our network. as I had mentioned before, Talks with Toy is one of the newer shows on our network, and Toy is a very talented woman who's done a lot in her life. She has great relationships with a lot of celebrities, and she's already interviewed quite a few on her network, and she's going to talk today about the journey in becoming an author that she has embarked on. All right, so please welcome Talks with Toy, one of the newer shows here at prconnectionsradio.com, the voice of new media.
PR Connections Radio presents. This episode of Talks with Toy is brought to you by Classy Communications PR and Advertising. Classy Communications provides public relations and marketing solutions for businesses, professionals, and nonprofit organizations. They can deliver the true meaning of your business with press releases, social media marketing, web development, email marketing, book publishing, and much more. Wherever your potential clients are, they can help you connect with them. Visit classycommunications.net to learn more about their suite of services that can help your business stand out from the rest. Classy Communications is your solution for business success.
Hello. How are you guys today? And welcome to Talks with Toy with your host, myself, Toy Boar. How are you guys doing today? Glad that you could be a part of my podcast show today. Today I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to interview myself. Who better knows you than yourself? So anyway, I'm going to do my interview myself, and I'm going to talk about my journey as a writer and a publisher. And I want to first start off with showing you my new book, Behind the Scenes. It's called Celebrity Life Behind the Scenes, and this is book number 15. I have self-published all of my books, and so this particular book, it features 50 celebrities that I have personally met, and I've taken pictures with them. The paperback has black and white pictures. All of the stories pretty much have pictures, my personal pictures that I have taken with the celebrities that I've met. And I have, like some of the stories are just a couple of paragraphs because I didn't really have a relationship with that celebrity. And some of them, like Earth, Wind, and Fire, I traveled with them. I was on the tour bus sometime. I used to babysit for Philip Bailey. So I used to be best friend, his best friend. Me and his wife hung out all the time. Like here, I've met Holly Berry, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Patti LaBelle. I mean, it's so many. And so I do stories on each of the celebrities that these 50 that I showcase in my book. So as I say, the paperback, it has black and white pictures. And I also am proud. This is my first hardcover book that I've ever done. And I made this one because I wanted it to be like a coffee table book. This one has color pictures in it of different people. That's me and Anita Baker. She used to spend a night with me. And Peebo Bryson was the first celebrity that I actually snuck backstage. Well, I didn't sneak backstage for him, but that I met. And he was just one of my favorites. And so anyway, this one is an 8.5 by 11. And it has all the different pictures, like I say, that are color. And you can put it on your coffee table and read it. So I'm really proud. My first hardcover, because I figured I wanted to have a book that displayed the pictures in color so you can really see. Also, I have a ebook, and the ebook, that one also has color pictures. So I'm proud of my accomplishments. So let's start off saying how I even got into the writing field. When I was in high school, I had a teacher, my English teacher, Mr. Brookins, and he says he liked my paper that I wrote on Martin Luther King. And so he's like, would you like to get an advanced English? Because I really love your paper. And I was like, I think 11th grade, soon to graduate. So I'm like, is it going to be more work? Do I have to do more? He's like, yeah, more reading, more work. I was like, oh no, never mind. No. And then I remember my mother-in-law used to compliment me all the time. She used to say that I wrote really nice words in the cards, the greeting cards that I would send her. And then another celebrity was Anita Baker. Me and her were best friends. She used to spend the night with me and stuff. And she would be like, you know, you're able to put things down in writing that other people are not able to do that so freely, you know. And so hearing these compliments from people, I just thought anybody can write, anybody can do what I do. So, you know, not realizing that I claim it as a gift from God, that God gave me the gift to be able to create a story. I remember somebody asked me one time, they're like, what would make you different than another writer? You know, writers write stories. And I said, for me personally, I think my top skill is to be able to create a story. You give me an idea and my mind can just run with the story of the ideal that started off. And so I think I really have a passion to just focus in on a story, tell a good story. Out of my 15 books, they're like dealing with domestic violence was my very first book. I have a thriller. I have a how to self-publish booklet. I have a book that deals with sex and relationships. I have an erotic comedy book. I have all kind of different stories. I never stayed in one genre because I just figured I'd talk about whatever was on my mind, what I was going through at the time. And so I just kind of wrote on how I was feeling at that moment or something that I thought was a necessary subject to cover. So I just feel like that's my gift. I can take a story or an idea. I can take an idea and make it into a story, whether it's a real book or not. I can take a book that's not real, fiction, and make it so that you believe it. You know, you believe the character, you believe into what you just read, you know, and I try to make it so that when I write my stories, that the reader is locked in the beginning, because as what a lot of writers or people will tell you, if you don't capture your audience in the very beginning, then you'll lose them, you know, so you got to make sure that you capture them in the beginning. But to go back, I think it was back in 2000, I think, when I wrote my very first story for a local newspaper, precinct reporter in San Bernardino, California. Thank you guys for your first opportunity to see what maybe I didn't even see in myself as far as creating. And I remember I wrote a story called Mean Moms, and the editor is like, why are you writing about mean moms? And I was like, well, when I grew up, my mom was really, really strict on me, and I always thought she was mean, you know, and so I used to hate it because she wouldn't let me hang out with my friends. I see some of my friends over there, you know, they could hang out at nighttime. They could, you know, have boyfriends and do crazy things. And my mom was like, nope, you ain't doing that. Don't even think about it. So I was like, she's mean. She don't let me do what all the other girls were doing and the other people were doing. And so when I wrote my story, it's not my personal story, me and my mom, but it's just a story of where other, you know, teenagers or whatever, they think their parents are mean because they're trying to instill things for you that will make you a better individual. And so it was the interesting part about all of that is my mom being mean, protecting me from life and the things that I had no idea about. A lot of those friends that were out there partying and hanging out at night and doing this and doing that, a lot of those ended up on drugs, alcohol, in jail, or dead, you know. And so when I wrote that story, it was kind of like a thank you, because, you know, when you're growing up, you just think your parents are being mean, but in most cases, they just want you to be protected and they want you to be a better individual. So that was my first story. And I must have did, God, at least 3-4 edits, 5 back and forth. And I guess the editor, maybe trying to, you can't do this, it ain't right. But he kept working with me. Okay, keep trying. Okay, you need to tweak this, you need to tweak that. And I was so into, I got to prove this. I got to prove to him that I could do it. I got to prove it. And I just kept following what he told me to do until he finally published my first story. And talk about proud. Oh my God, I was so proud. I made a whopping $10. And it wasn't about the money at all. It was just that I seen my name in print. And it was something that I didn't even realize that I had the talent, the ability to even do. So it opened up that can of worms for me. And then I just kept writing for the newspaper. And then after a while, I didn't really feel that writing for newspaper was my strength, journalism. So I got into writing for magazines. And I got into magazines because I could be a little more freer. I can be a little more, light and loose with my story and have fun with it. Instead of in journalism, you got to really stick to exactly the facts. You're supposed to at least stick to the facts. You're not supposed to have an opinion of the story. You're just supposed to tell the facts. And at least with magazine, I was able to kind of put some of me into it, a little bit on how I thought. You stick to the facts, but you're able to put a little bit of your personality into it. So I started doing that. And then, so I did that for a while. And then after a while, the internet started taking over. So therefore, I got less and less jobs as a freelancer because, like say, I wrote for Billboard magazine and Upscale magazine. I have like over 350 bylines throughout the United States and Canada. But after a while, those jobs started decreasing because people didn't need to pay the extra money to have advertisement done in newspapers and magazines. They could do it themselves because now the internet was getting bigger and better, and so people were like, well, we don't have to spend it on magazines and stuff, so we'll do it ourselves. So it started taking away jobs as freelancers. So because my passion was still into writing, I got into writing books because I like to talk. I am a talker. Those of you that know me, you know that. Anyway, so I started writing books. And I just my very first story, let's go backwards a little bit, is I wrote a short story. So when I was first introduced really to writing, I remember watching a TV show, Sally Jesse Raphael, and she interviewed Judith Krantz. And so she interviewed her. And I remember Judith saying, you never know what you can create until you put your mind to it. And I was like, okay, all right. And then I was like, what do I want to write about? I don't know. And so then I thought, well, I would like to eventually get paid as I write. So therefore, let's write about something that's dealing with sex. So I wrote my first short story as a romance story. And so I remember this day so clearly. My husband took myself and my two sons up in the mountains so that they can go fishing. And so my youngest son was still in his car seat, and he had fell asleep in the car. So my husband took my older son down and they went to the lake to go fishing. And I said, I'll just sit in here while he sleeps and write. And I remember, my hardest part too is where to start. So I figured out where I wanted to start and I just started writing, and I just wrote, pencil and paper, just writing. And I just couldn't seem to get the words out fast enough for what was in my brain creating this story. And I just wrote, and it was just like, the more I wrote, the more I enjoyed writing, and the more creative I found that my thoughts were in creating this story and making it a real story, even though it wasn't based on a real story. And so I remember I wrote it, put it down, came back maybe a week later, revisited it, wrote it some more, tweaked it, put it down, came back a couple weeks later, same thing until I felt like, okay, I'm ready. So it ended up being a 10-page short story. And I remember driving down the freeway. My husband was driving, I was in the car, and I read him some of the book, some of the story, one of the juicy scenes. And he turned around and looked at me and he's like, who have you been with? Nobody. My mind. It's my imagination. Who knows? I guess it was something inside me that I didn't even know what was inside of me. And so then my auntie came up one time from San Diego and I let her read the story. And we lived up north. And so after she read it, she's like, I got to go home. This story's got me hot and bothered. So it was at those moments that I realized I'm onto something. And I really enjoyed it. And I just kept writing and kept writing more. And then, like I say, with the newspaper, when I seen my name in print, it just validated, that I have a gift from God that I say in my writing. And then I got into the magazine where I can be more creative and writing. And then I started getting into the books because I had more to say. My first story was actually a screenplay. My first book was called Mama, Please Forgive Me. And I wrote the screenplay first. Had no idea how to write a screenplay. I just figured I'd try it, so I tried it out. And I couldn't get all the feelings out on what I was trying to say in this story. So then I wrote the book after I finished the screenplay. And by the time I finished the whole book and, got it out there and I put it all together, friends donated money toward my birthday because one of my girlfriends, Harriet, and my husband had gotten together, went through my phone book and mailed everybody something that said, in lieu of her birthday, can you, donate money because she wants to publish her first book. And so started getting all these checks. They got all these checks and stuff in the mail, put them together. And that was my birthday present. And we put the additional money together. And I printed Mama, Please Forgive Me. I had 1,000 copies printed. And man, just the joy of seeing all those books with my name on it. And I had a high school student who actually did the cover, and he ended up using it in his art class and got credit. I was able to finish the book, and as he finished the cover, and he got credit in school. So it was a whole journey, but it was so worth it, just the joy of opening up a box of books that have your name on it. And it was just like, oh, so I was hooked by then to keep doing it. So I kept writing books, and I'd say my books deal with all kind of subjects. I didn't want to lock myself in one genre. So just kind of wrote what I felt, wrote what was on my mind, wrote what was interesting to me. And then sometimes just wrote stuff just because it was fun. I mean, like, who writes erotic comedy? I didn't even know I was funny until I wrote that book. Found myself laughing out loud when I was reading that book. And then the funny part about that is, like, my boys were still young. And so when I was writing that book and some of the romance stories in some of my other books, because I seem to put romance in quite a few of my books. There was always like a romantic scene or two or three in most of my books. And then when I wrote the erotic comedy, so it's like every time I was writing books, when I got to the romantic part or whatever, or the romantic books that I was doing, and I noticed that my husband kind of made sure that the boys were like away, because I guess he benefited later. But anyway, it just reinforced my passion for writing, my love to be able to, my gift and love to be able to create a story and make people believe it, whether it was, true or false, to tie in with the characters. I always believe, and other writers will probably tell you too, that if you don't catch your audience in the beginning, you lose them. So I always made it a really important step to make sure that as my readers are reading my books, that they get locked into the story right in the beginning. And so, because if they didn't, then they would not continue reading the rest of the book. And so I remember my very first book, Mama, Please Forgive Me. And I would go to book clubs and have meetings with them and talk about the book and explain how I, came up with the idea of the book and everything. And I remember a lady, she was like, your book, it started off with just a bang. And most writers, they let theirs just kind of go like, smoothly and then climax and come down. She said, but yours started off with a climax. So she's like, that's not really how most writers write. And I looked at her and I said, tell me this. I said, did it catch your attention as you read it? She said, yes. I said, in the beginning, it caught your attention. Yes. Okay. Did you keep reading it because of the introduction on how the book started off? Did you keep reading to see what else was going to happen? She said, yes. I said, point proven. That's what I was trying to do. I was trying to reel you in the beginning, have you hooked on the opening part of the story, and then keep you going as you read the rest of the book. So that was really, fun to be able to do that. And like I say, I've written several books that, deal with all kind of different genres, and just depended on how I felt. People would ask me, how did you get started with writing, or what, how do you write a story? We get plenty of people to ask me, how do you even write a story? Where do you begin? And so I would tell them, depends on what the subject is, what you're talking about. As Michael Jordan made it so clear and widely known, just do it. If you want to talk about your life story, start when you were a baby, because I believe that you need to show a little bit about where you started from. And this is what any book, if you're going to talk about your life or your path to something, where did it start from? So start from that base, whether it's your childhood or in the beginning on what the story is about. Start from your base. Don't give too much information because you don't want to make it boring when you haven't even gotten to the facts of the meat of the story. So just introduce people a little bit on who you are and how you got there, so that they'll have some knowledge of it, and then lead them up into the story. That's one way of doing it. Another way is some of my stories come in, as that lady was saying, with a bang, so it may have not been the lead up, but it was the part that hooked the reader from the first few pages. And so that's another attempt, that you can come in like that. It just depends on you as an individual, where you're going with the story, where you want to end with the story. I remember my second book, which is a sequel to Mama, Please Forgive Me, is called Mind Games. I remember after I finished with Mama, Please Forgive Me, I wrote the intro to Mind Games and the ending of Mind Games. And then I came back later on when I was ready to address that book and wrote the meat of the book in the inside, but I knew where I wanted to start and where I wanted to end. And for me personally, starting is always a more difficult process than, later on. If I know where I'm going to start at, then once I get started, then my mind will just create the rest as I go along. And people have also asked me about writer's block. I personally never said that I had writer's block, because I learned over a period that if you're not feeling it, don't write. Because when I would try to write, when I wasn't really feeling it, I'd just be sitting there twiddling at the typewriter and just trying to figure out, what do I want to say? How do I want to say it? And then I'd get ready to read it, and half of the time it didn't make sense. And it was just such a waste of time for me. Whereas when I felt like I was in the mood to write, it would just go so much more freely, and I had made a commitment to myself that I would write at least 4 days out of 7, even if that was 10 minutes. And a lot of times when I started with that 10 minutes, I'd be there for an hour or two. And so it just depended on how the story was going, how I was feeling, and just kind of made it my own. But like I said, when I didn't feel like writing, didn't feel it, I just didn't do it because it didn't come out right. And then when I would go back and edit my books, I remember, especially with my first book, I'd read some of it and I'm like, wow, I don't even remember creating that particular portion of the story. And I just kind of would look up to God and say, God gave me that idea. He told me where to take this story. He gave me the knowledge to be able to create and come up with something. And my first story, Mama, Please Forgive Me, deals with domestic violence. And I remember trying to figure out, do I write a romance story for the first book that I'm going to put out? Because I kind of had wrote a little bit of both of them. And then I decided to do the domestic violence, even though I knew that that's not an easy subject to deal with. My mom was a victim of domestic violence. And so I know that that wasn't a story that was easy to tell. It wasn't her story. But what I realized, and I didn't realize this until the book was completely finished, is that the little girl in the story, the 5-year-old, was actually me as a 5-year-old witnessing my mother being abused by my stepfather and not being able to help her. So as I wrote that, I realized it was feelings that were inside of me that I had held on to since I was 5 years old until I became an adult, And so I learned that my books also was a therapy for me, because as I wrote that story from the brain and the mind and the heart of a 5-year-old, it allowed me to get it out of my system, the memories and the feelings that I had obviously held on to and didn't even realize that I was holding on to them until I started writing. So my writing has, like I say, it has been not only my passion, it also a lot of times has been very therapeutic for me. And I've been able to sometimes analyze myself or understand maybe a situation that I was going through or I've been through or why things happened. I was able to analyze sometime what was really going on in the inside by writing it on paper. So anyway, I just, again, thank God that I had the gift. It is definitely my passion. I remember, at one point getting frustrated because I published my books. And when I say publish, I'd make sure the cover was created. I would make sure, like, if you pick up a book and read it, like with these, the layout, I had to put the whole layout together so that what you see is what I did on the computer to put the whole layout together. Then I sent it to a publishing company that back in those days, I printed my very first book, 1,000 copies. So I say my husband and my girlfriend sent mail to people saying she wants to write, support her by donating money so that she could publish her first book. And like I say, the checks were coming in. We still had to add more money to it, but it blew my mind on how some of my friends and family would donate. They may have only had $5. They donated it, $50, $100, and everything helped because it was very expensive to print up 1,000 books. I did a whole layout and everything, but to print them out, it was very expensive for us back then. We didn't have a lot of money. And so just to see that so many people believed in me, even sometime more than I believed in myself, kept me writing and kept me doing and kept me believing in myself when, like I say, sometimes I couldn't even, believe in myself. And it was at those, sometime some books later that I, would put my books out and trying to sell them. And, they in the backseat of my car, my trunk. And the first one, I'm like going to everybody. I mean, I'd go to the post office, the grocery store, and people that I had friended in the grocery store, the post office, or the bank, or whatever. I'd take my book. Here, buy my book. It's only $10. Support me. And a lot of people supported me. I got on different shows where people interviewed me. I put it out there. It was in Barnes and Noble. I really pushed that first one a lot. It was great. Now things are a little more difficult. You can't necessarily get in bookstores so easily unless you're a big celebrity or you've had a history of selling a lot of product, along the way. So those things are a lot different from when I started off, but, still have my passion. I still do the writing. And when I got to those points in my life and my career as a writer, that I just was like, man, nobody's buying my stuff. I should just stop writing. And, but I was, my husband was a big supporter for me. He's like, keep writing. The money will come eventually. Don't write for the money, write because that's what you love to do. We'll take care of everything else. So, I owe him a lot of kudos for always pushing me and encouraging me, and then, like I say, the different publications that would publish, publicly, that would put my stories out, that would allow me to write for them, and that would give me the chances of writing, So with the 350 bylines that I had with Billboard and Upscale and different ones all over the United States and Canada, it was an honor that these people allowed me to work for them and doing something that I loved. That's the part that was the greatest, is that I loved doing what I loved. So anyway, just wanted to say, those of you that may be interested in writing, I just say, just do it. That's what I did. Figure out where you want to start, what you want to write about. Sometimes people would come to me and want me to write their stories, but it's so time consuming. And by the time I tell them what I would charge, they're like, So I'm like, the more you can do for yourself, the less you have to pay somebody else to do. So that's why I learned how to do a lot of stuff myself, is because I'm like, I'd rather do it, learn it, and then pay myself. So all of my books, my 15 books, are available on Amazon.com. I've been doing some book signings and going to be doing some more in the local Southern California area, San Diego, Riverside County areas, doing book signings because people are asking for copies of my book for me to autograph them. So I'm going to be doing more book signings and stuff. And some of them are going to be wineries or just different locations. I'm just kind of scouting out different locations and doing different ones. So anyway, I would say if you guys have a passion, or you think that you have a passion for writing, just do it. You just, as Judith says, you never know what you can do until you put your mind to it. And now, of course, we have AI programs. So a lot of people are going that direction. I'm old fashioned. I just like to just write. I don't want to see what AI has to say. I just like to let my own mind create, because AI can be good. I won't knock that. But for me, I rather just be creative in my own self. Now, I have used AI sometime for some of my editing. On this last book, I remember I had done like 100 pages, and then I put it into AI, asked them to edit it. And man, they must have brought it down to like 40 pages. I was like, I needed that information in there. Why you take it out? So I was like, forget AI. So I started back from my original one and just edited myself. And I've had some of my friends who are into reading a lot or they like English, I've had them help me with the editing because, I need other eyes besides myself to look at the words that I have. And there was another editing program that I've used too, Grammarly. That was a good one that I used, and that one really helped, find a lot of things that I needed. So, you just use the different tools that work for you. You bring out what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and even if it doesn't sell any books, if it's something that makes you proud, if it's your passion, something you feel like you need to get it out, just do it. It can be just to help you on a therapeutical level. Sometimes we just need to write stuff to get it out of our system so that our brain is not holding on to it. That's how I felt with my first one. You get it out of your system and then you feel like it's somewhere safe. You don't have to keep holding on to those thoughts and those memories, and especially if they're not happy ones. You bring them out and it helps you to heal, which is what happened for me. So anyway, I just want to remind you guys, get my book, Behind the Scenes, Celebrity Life Behind the Scenes, 50 stories of me and celebrities. Like some of these celebrities, like I say, some of the stories are like a few paragraphs. Some may be several pages, like say my chapter that I have on Earth, Wind, and Fire. My husband worked for them for about 12 years. So I got the opportunity to go on tour with them. And I was Philip Bailey's babysitter when the kids were little. Me and his wife were best friends. And so got to hang out with them and, go to family functions. Sometimes we'd have Christmas and Thanksgiving dinners together. In the summertime, I go on the tour bus and I travel with them. So I talk about some of those stories on what I went through and the joy and the honor and the privilege that I had to be able to hang with these celebrities like that, because a lot of celebrities don't always allow the families or spouses or whatever to travel with them. And so it was an honor and blessing. I got to just see the world sometime through the eyes of other people and their world and see their world. And I would notice that when I'd come back sometime from these tours, it would inspire me to want to be creative and write more. So then another book would come out of it. So anyway, so that chapter is a little longer. It's more pictures in it because I had more of a interaction with Earth, Wind, and Fire, their members and family members. We'd have lunch and dinner together. I mean, just all kind of stuff. So the stories are just fun stories. They're real stories, plenty of pictures. If you get the ebook, you also see the color pictures. So the ebook and the hardcover have color pictures, and the paperback is the one that has just the black and white pictures. But anyway, if you want to be a writer, just do it. If you want to get in touch with me, you can email me at talkswithtoy@aol.com. I'm old school. Keep it real. Keep it simple. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And so if you want to ask me some more questions, or if you're interested in some of my book signings, you can go to toymore.com. That's TOIMOORE.com. I'm going to start putting more information on there about my upcoming book signings. We just updated my website because I haven't even been on my website lately. So we just recently redid it and updated it and stuff. So now I got to go on there and add in my dates and stuff. But yeah, you can go to toymore.com and read more about me, some of my background, my history, see what my other books are about. And I'll also go to amazon.com. They're all available. Usually they're the ebooks and the paperbacks. Some of the paperbacks I notice aren't available now because they were so old, so long ago that I wrote them. But anyway, hope you guys go on and join in with what I'm doing. support is great. I love the support that I'm already getting. I'm getting a lot of support for this book, and it's starting to make a lot of noise. So I'm really excited about that. And I look forward to what you guys think about it, about the books. Let me know your thoughts on if you're interested in writing, if you have questions. If you go to my website too, I also publish other people's books. We have a breakdown, I think, on what I would do for publishing, or either you can just send me a message and we can talk about what your project is about, and I can offer publishing services as well. But anyway, again, you can reach me, talkswithtoy@aol.com. Go to toymore.com and check me out, and buy my books on amazon.com. All you have to do is put books by Toy Moore, and all my books will start coming up. So thank you for tuning in. I hope this was a great informational session for you guys to learn about being a writer, or at least how I started and what has worked for me and what I've been doing with my writing. And look forward to seeing and talking to you guys soon. So you have a good day. Thank you. Bye.
I hope you all enjoyed Talks with Toy Moore, talking about the book that she just published. I would highly encourage you to go and check it out. She is a fantastic writer. I guess you got to hear a lot about her experience, all the books that she's published throughout the years. And we are really enjoying having her podcast on our network. She is someone who has really had a fascinating life, as you heard some of the experiences that she talked about. So yes, please tune into her podcast regularly here. By the way, you can go to our website, prconnectionsradio.com, to watch all the archives of Talks with Toy. We're going to take a short break to honor our sponsors, and we'll be back. We've got a few more podcasts before the end of the marathon. Stay tuned.
Hey, business owners. Want to get your brand in front of thousands of locals in Vegas without blowing your budget on overpriced ads? Ready to boost your visibility? Use promo code PRTalk for an exclusive offer. Click the link in the description or contact 702-445-9488 to talk to our experts today. Vegas is watching. Make sure they see you.
We're back with more of the marathon here at prconnectionsradio.com. Before I get into our next podcast, I had mentioned to all of you that I wanted to give you a list of the online platforms where you can audio stream our podcast, where you can actually listen to the audio streams. And I have an extensive list here that I'm going to read to you really quickly before we get into our next show, which is going to be Vegas Hockey Hub with Ian Rakelli. Here are the platforms where you can go and listen to the podcasts on our network: Spotify, Apple Podcast, Player FM, Podcast Addict, Deezer, Amazon Music, Podchaser, Overcast, Pocket Casts, Castro, Castbox, Good Pods, TuneIn, Agami, Fountain, Radio Public, Pandora, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, and of course, you can watch the video of the podcast on YouTube. We are also going to be creating a new podcast network specifically geared towards the audio version of our show. So stay tuned for more of that. Then there are several indexes that you can go to where you can find our podcasts. One is called the Podcast Index. The other is called Listen Notes. Again, our audio presence is just growing and growing, and we want to give you as many opportunities as we can for you to enjoy our podcasts. And so, again, that was a pretty extensive list. I'm sure if you're someone who listens to audio podcasts, there's at least one of those where you tune into your podcast. So, yes, we are really, really evolving as an audio streaming network. And we'll be making more announcements about these over on our website, prconnectionsradio.com, and also within our social media. Also, our newsletter is coming out. We're going to be launching it within the next couple of days. It's called the PR Connector, and it's going to have all kinds of information about shows that are on the air, upcoming shows, happenings at the network, live events that we're participating in. Stay tuned for more information about how to become a subscriber to the PR Connector. As I mentioned a second ago, Vegas Hockey Hub is a podcast on our network brought to you by Ian Rakelli. And Ian was another one of the original podcasters here on the network. He's been with us for several years. His perspective on sports are outstanding, and he's niched himself recently talking about hockey in Vegas specifically. For those of you who are Golden Knights fans or fans of the other hockey teams within Las Vegas, it's amazing how within the last 8 years we've become this hockey hub, from not even having a hockey team to having a hockey team, the Vegas Golden Knights that won the Stanley Cup a couple of years ago, to now all the other hockey teams in Vegas are also starting to get a lot of shine. So I want you to tune in here to Vegas Hockey Hub with Ian Rakelli.
PR Connections Radio presents
Welcome to Vegas Hockey Hub here on prconnectionsradio.com, the voice of new media. I'm your host, Ian Rakelli. And on this edition of Vegas Hockey Hub, we are going to be discussing the Tahoe Night Monsters, the ECHL affiliate of your Vegas Golden Knights. So since it is the middle of the week and there is no hockey action going on right now, we decided that we're going to, pivot a little bit, and we're going to take a focus on the new and most recent minor league affiliate to join the Vegas Golden Knights organization. We're going to talk about Tahoe, kind of establish who they are, and maybe go through the roster a little bit and talk about some notable players and any notable names that you may recognize or people that you should probably know. So it's going to be a fun episode talking about the ECHL and the newest affiliate for the Vegas Golden Knights. And we're going to talk about all of this on this episode of Vegas Hockey Hub. Now, before we get into the ECHL and talk about Tahoe, I want to very quickly shout out our social medias. Follow us on social media on YouTube at Vegas Hockey Hub. Click the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any episode of Vegas Hockey Hub. Go to the PR Connections Radio YouTube channel, like the video, and share this video to all your friends all around the world. On Facebook, go to at Vegas Hockey Hub and at RPR Connections. Like those videos and share it to all the groups and all the pages that you know. On Instagram, go to at Vegas Hockey Hub, where we upload content to events that we are attending and events that we are going to. And considering what's going on in the future, there is plenty of stuff we are going to be doing the next couple of months on this channel and on that Instagram channel. So go to our Instagram at Vegas Hockey Hub. Go to our Twitter at Vegas Hockey Hub. We do live tweets. We tweet during the game while it's going on. We try to engage with all of our fan base and everyone who's watching all around the world. So that is at Vegas Hockey Hub. We also have our TikTok at Vegas Hockey Hub, where we try to upload, if there's warm-ups that we're attending, or if there's events that we are at that is Vegas Golden Knights or Henderson Silver Knights related. That is our TikTok at Vegas Hockey Hub. And we have our website, www.vegashockeyhub.com, trying to put more content on that platform. So there is a lot to really talk about on this show tonight. Now, to establish what this team is, the Lake Tahoe Night Monsters. Now, very recently, about over a year ago, the ECHL granted an expansion team. They're expanding the ECHL, And the Vegas Golden Knights' newest ECHL affiliate was a part of that. As the Tahoe Night Monsters out there in State Line, Nevada, near Lake Tahoe, they were granted that expansion team and we're going to be the newest member. And look, it's good. I mean, definitely, as somebody who remembers the good old days of the Las Vegas Wranglers being part of the ECHL, this meant that this new ECHL team was going to have some reignited rivalries with some teams that used to play Las Vegas back in the day. I'm talking about the Idaho Steelheads. I'm talking about the Utah Grizzlies. There's going to be some teams in the ECHL that are going to sound familiar to people who were part of the Las Vegas Wranglers or are familiar with what Las Vegas Wranglers were in the most recent tenure of having a Nevada team in the ECHL. Now, when it comes to the Tahoe Night Monsters, this was only about a year after, even though it was kind of obvious for anybody who connected the dots, but it was official during the summer of 2024 that the Vegas Golden Knights and the Henderson Silver Knights would be that affiliate to the Tahoe Night Monsters. And this is really good for Vegas in terms of travel-wise. Having all three teams in the same state means that at the most, you're going to have only a couple of hours in between where those affiliates are going to be. If a person goes from Henderson to Tahoe, they can have that access there. If they go from Tahoe to Henderson to Vegas, and then Vegas to Henderson. So there is some, there's going to be some in terms of mileage, in terms of the airfare, in terms of all of that. It's not going to cost as much as it was when the Vegas Golden Knights had an ECHL team in Indiana, as much as it was if they had a team in Illinois, or if they had a team out there that was in Georgia. Like, you go from having an ECHL team that was in the Midwest and in the South, and now you have one that is in the same state, so the mileage is not going to be as much. And when it comes to the staff of the Tahoe Night Monsters, it was announced a while back that Alex Lowe, L-O-H, would be the head coach of Tahoe. Now, if that name does sound familiar, or if anybody does remember the Savannah Ghost Pirates from a year prior, then his name would make sense, as he was originally an assistant coach in Savannah, and then after they fired the head coach in the middle of the season, he would be promoted to be the interim head coach out there in Savannah. So he essentially goes from being the interim head coach in Savannah and gets carried over, more or less, over to Tahoe and becomes the permanent head coach here. So even though Savannah is going to have a new affiliate, even though Savannah is going to have a new team in the NHL, Alex Lowe is going to be the permanent head coach here. And considering his experience, I mean, he went from being, a video coach in the AHL to then being an associate coach, an assistant coach in the ECHL. He was a head coach a while back before becoming an assistant coach once again. So with his experience and almost a decade of experience that he has in the ECHL as a coach in hockey, that is going to be some valuable knowledge that Tahoe has. And when it comes to his coaching, it seems like there's going to be some players who are going to be familiar with him because of the fact that he was the interim coach last year in Savannah. Vegas is going to be carrying over some players who are under contract with Vegas but are in the ECHL. There's only going to be a handful of those guys, but they're still going to have some familiarity with the coach because he is the interim guy from the past season. And then on the assistant coach side, and this one was announced just before the regular season and before they started doing their training camps, before they do any of that stuff, Brett Boeing, who was a former ECHL player. He spent a couple of seasons in Toledo, actually no longer, and he is now joining a coaching staff in the ECHL and would be the assistant to Alex Lowe out there in Tahoe. So when it comes to Brett Boeing, this is going to be a guy who does have that experience. And because he was in the ECHL, not only just 2 years prior, he's going to have that recency. He's going to have that experience and kind of know, the ECHL on a kind of inner level because he had been there recently in the ECHL. And now another part of the Tahoe Night Monsters, we talked about the coaching staff. We talked about how, they're starting to get into here, how they're an expansion team in the ECHL. But what about the players itself? Now, I understand that not everybody is going to be familiar with who's going to be on the roster. And I understand that there's going to be players who are going to be signed to just ECHL deals. They're not going to be with the Vegas Golden Knights. They're not going to be with the Henderson Silver Knights unless they're on a loan or they're on a PTO, okay? But when it comes to the Tahoe Night Monsters, this is going to be a situation where it's about to be a 60-40 situation. 60% of these guys are going to be signed to just the ECHL. They're going to play in just the ECHL, and that's the way the roster is going to be. And then the other 40% are going to be draft picks that the Vegas Golden Knights have had. They're going to be two-way contracts that are going to be between Henderson and going to be between Tahoe. And then the other 40% is going to account for rehab assignments. Let's say it's somebody in Henderson gets hurt and they don't want them to, and they want them to, kind of rehab and have a rehab assignment. They'll have them play a game or two or maybe a few games in the ECHL, and then they will come back to Henderson. Very similar to how in the NHL, we see guys who get injured, they come over to the AHL to play a game or two, and then they eventually get brought back up. That's going to kind of be the same ordeal there. Now, the way that we are going to kind of break this down in terms of roster is that the Tahoe Night Monsters, as of, this date, this is a team that currently has 15 players that are signed to ECHL deals. There's 15 players that are just going to be ECHL guys. And then the rest of the roster, the other 8, are going to be on the Vegas Golden Knights side. So to kind of make this easy for Vegas Hockey Hub is that we're going to cover the 8 players who are going to be part of the Vegas Golden Knights side of it. And then if we have time, we will talk about the remaining 15. And if there's any notable players or people that you would know who are from those 15 that are with the Tahoe Night Monsters. And the one position that is going to have the Vegas Golden Knights affiliate the most is going to be goaltending. And based off of the roster that we have in front of us, the way the Vegas Golden Knights and the Henderson Silver Knights are going to be, at Henderson, you're going to have Carl Lindbaum, you're going to have Isaiah Seville, and you are going to have Jesper Beckman, for example. That looks like what it's going to be on the AHL side with Henderson. On the NHL side, you have Aiden Hill, you have Ilya Samsonov, and you have Akira Schmid. So for the ECHL side, the one notable goaltender that is going to be here is Jordan Prapirny. Now, this is a guy who has split time between the AHL and the ECHL throughout his tenure with the Vegas Golden Knights. And based off of what we've seen him do over the past 2 seasons, it is a very safe bet to say that he is going to spend time in the ECHL and he is going to be in the Tahoe Night Monster system. He's going to be a goaltender that is going to spend time here. Now, for the Henderson goaltenders that are also going to be involved, I have no doubt that you're going to see maybe a Jesper Beckman. You're going to have him be part of the Tahoe Night Monsters. Isaiah Seville, considering the Henderson-Tahoe connection there. I mean, when it comes to the goaltending, there is going to be goaltenders that are going to split time between the ECHL and the AHL, and that's going to be a good quality for the Vegas Golden Knights, is that if there is a backup goaltender in the AHL that does need some starts and isn't going to get a lot of it in the AHL, they can recall him and send him down to the ECHL, and he'll be the starting goaltender there, and he will get his appropriate amount of starts instead of just not playing in the AHL. And like I alluded to before, let's say that there's a goaltender who gets hurt in the AHL and he gets put on a rehab assignment to the ECHL. So when it comes to the goaltending, like I mentioned, there's going to be some goaltenders of note that you're going to want to talk about. I did talk about Carl Lindbaum, Jesper Beckman, Isaiah Seville, Jordan Papirny. Like, there's going to be those guys that are going to be on that list that is going to take advantage of having an AHL and ECHL team in the same state when it comes to Tahoe. Now, the goaltending is a part of it, and 2 of those 8 players are going to be assigned from Vegas and are going to be in Tahoe. All right, so 2 of the goaltenders are going to be there. Highly unlikely that the Tahoe Night Monsters would have a full-time goaltender that's going to play every single game that doesn't have at least some affiliation with the Vegas Golden Knights. And the reason why we know this is because based on that list of the 14, 15 players that the Tahoe Night Monsters are going to have signed to ECHL deals, none of them are goaltenders. Now, they did have somebody on a PTO that was a goaltender, but, PTOs are a game or two, giving them a tryout more or less. But when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights, that's really what it's looking like at the moment, is that they're going to have 2 of their guys. It could be a veteran and a young guy, or 2 young guys, prospect, whatever it is. But the Tahoe Night Monsters, 2 of those goaltenders are going to be from Henderson and or prospects of the Vegas Golden. Now, on the defensive end of the Tahoe Night Monsters, they have 6 defensemen who are signed under contract with the ECHL. And because they have those 6 guys, they already are signed to the Tahoe Night Monsters. That would be the assumption that there isn't going to be much representation when it comes to Vegas Golden Knights prospects. There's not going to be much in terms of Henderson and Tahoe interaction. But there is actually going to be 2 defensemen that are going to have at least some two-way deal, or are at least going to spend some time in the ECHL and or the AHL at some point. The first one is Arthur Kolosh. Now, this is a defenseman who has spent a reasonable amount of time in the minor league system with the Vegas Golden Knights. He's been at development camps. He's been at training camps. And him being on the opening day roster with Tahoe, him playing games in Tahoe, playoffs, that would be a situation there. This is going to be a player that if there is, an AHL, ECHL situation, this would be someone who is going to be a mainstay on the ECHL roster, who was assigned from Henderson or assigned from Vegas. So that would be a defenseman that would have some representation from the Vegas Golden Knights on the ECHL end. And then you have Sam Mayer. And Sam Mayer is someone who has spent time in the ECHL, another young up-and-coming guy who is going to be playing and getting some time in the ECHL. This is a guy who, is really trying to earn his way in the Vegas Golden Knights organization. So despite having 6 defensemen who are signed to ECHL contracts and are going to be in Tahoe pretty much exclusively, you're going to have 2 players that are going to be, represented from the Vegas Golden Knights. So I meant that there's going to be 2 goaltenders that are going to be added to this team from Vegas. And then you're going to have at least 2 defensemen that are going to come from Henderson or going to come from the prospect pool of Vegas. and they are going to be added to this team. So if we've done the math real quick, we have those 14 players that are signed to ECHL contracts, the 2 goalies, that would make it 16, and then the 2 defensemen will make it 18. So you have 6 players left, and I think you can probably figure out by now what position we are going to be focusing on next. Now, when it comes to the Henderson Silver Knights, their bottom 6 forwards or guys who are going to be healthy scratches in Henderson, they are then going to get optioned down to the ECHL. They are going to then become top 6, middle 6 forwards in the ECHL. And one player that kind of is an indicator of that would be the first one on this list, and that is Bear Hughes. Now, Bear Hughes did split time between the Savannah Ghost Pirates and the Henderson Silver Knights. But this is also going to be a guy who's going to play a few games in Henderson throughout the year, but he's going to play majority of his season in the ECHL. And in terms of numbers, he is actually a very credible player in the ECHL. He's going to be an everyday guy that the Vegas Golden Knights and their prospect pool and their system out here in the ECHL are going to use. So for Bear Hughes, he would be the first player on that list that's really going to catch your eye because he did play a few games in the Henderson Silver Knights in the AHL, but at this point, this is his second season, playing in the AHL, full-time member, and that is what Bear Hughes is going to be. It's going to be kind of similar to Jet Jones. Jet Jones, who's the second name on that list of players from the Vegas Golden Knights / Henderson Silver Knights system that are going to be playing in the ECHL. And when it comes to Jet Jones, a similar story. Yes, he can play some games in Henderson. He has, but he will spend a majority of his campaign playing in the ECHL. But what makes him stand out is his production. He is one of the most productive players that you're going to have in Tahoe. And only reason why I know this is because when you look at his stat line, all right, when you study Jet Jones, for example, this is someone who he's been in the ECHL a few games, 2 years ago. Then he had about half the year, in the previous year before that. And then he gets to play majority of the season here. And this is someone who you can get a recent amount of goals from in Jet Jones. And what I like about him, and this is from Hockey Reference, who I use a lot for my research, Jet Jones is a guy who's only 23 years old, but this is a player who, if you look at his accomplishments and his statistics, this is going to be someone who's entering his 3rd season being in the Vegas Golden Knights organization. And despite not being signed, despite not being, he was not drafted by the Vegas Golden Knights, him being on that 3rd year, he is someone who is credible and someone the Vegas Golden Knights could use in that capacity. So Bear Hughes is the first one that's on that list of forwards that are going to have that AHL, ECHL situation. Jet Jones is going to be another guy on there. And then you have a guy that was on the prospect pool for the Vegas Golden Knights, and that is a defenseman converted into a forward, and that is Joe Fleming. Joe Fleming, who can drop the gloves, and oh my, yes, he can. He is going to be a mainstay in the ECHL for a while. This is a player that when you watch him play, regardless if it's a few games in the AHL or a full season in the ECHL, this is someone in Joe Fleming who you can count on to defend his teammates. He's going to finish his checks, and he will drop the gloves if he has to. And the reason why we know this is because when it goes to Joe Fleming, this is someone who has, over 100 penalty minutes in the previous year that he was in Savannah. He had over 100 penalty minutes, and he did rack up a decent amount of points too. So overall, when it comes to Joe Fleming, you're going to see him be part of that ECHL roster. You're going to see him be part of that. Now, do I think that he'll also spend some time in the AHL? Absolutely. He will be a guy that you'll see in Henderson, but you also will see in Tahoe. Very similar to Bear Hughes and Jet Jones. They're going to split some time. You're going to see their stats on both stat lines. If you go to the Silver Knights website or if you go to the Night Monsters website, both of those, all three of them are going to be there. The last two players that are going to have affiliation with the Vegas Golden Knights that are going to be in with the Tahoe Night Monsters, this is a player who they have a lot of potential. All right, the first one that I'm going to mention real quick is Simeon Pinard. And this is a guy who scored over 20 goals with the Savannah Ghost Pirates. He will score a 25-goal season, and it's the ECHL. I know that, for most people, they are not going to really care about a guy who could score over 25 goals in a season, over 30 goals in a season in the ECHL as an everyday guy. But I also want to remind you that this is a guy in Simeon Pinard who played around a dozen games in the AHL and then played majority of the season in the ECHL. And this is a guy who's racking up 40, 50 points in the ECHL. This is an undrafted player. All right, he was not drafted by the Vegas Golden Knights. They signed him as an undrafted free agent. And this is, year 2 of him being in the Golden Knights organization. And in terms of goal scoring, in terms of prospect watch, I even alluded to Simeon Pinard in one of our recent prospect shows we did a few months ago. And I said that he was a guy to watch, just like Joe Fleming, who is a defenseman in the AHL and sometimes a forward in the ECHL. He is someone you have to watch out for because Simeon Pinard could be a good middle six forward in the AHL if given the opportunity, because we've seen him be a great goal scorer and a good point differentiator out there in the ECHL. Now, the final player and the standout guy here in the ECHL is Sloan Stanek. This is a player who is very undervalued in the ECHL. And the reason why I say that is because this is his first season being in the ECHL. This is going to be a guy that, he might be a bottom six forward in select games in the AHL, but him being his first year with the Golden Knights organization, he is going to be an everyday player in the ECHL. And considering the amount of goals that he scored in Prince Albert, all right, him spending all that time in the Western Hockey League, this is a legit goal scorer. Just for reference, this is a Hockey DB that I'm using. He had back-to-back 30-goal seasons in the Western Hockey League. Now, him going over to the ECHL, is it expected that he is going to score over 30 goals in a season? Well, it's possible. If you understand the point production that he did in juniors, he could pull off that pace in the ECHL. And once he does, that could earn him the promotion to the AHL. I have no doubt in my mind that this guy, being an all-star caliber player and someone who is going to make a name for himself, if you just watched him play at Prince Albert, when his name popped up that he was with the Golden Knights organization, it took notice because this was a player who put up some commendable numbers in the Western Hockey League. Now he is playing with the Golden Knights organization. And in a way, very similar to Patrick Gay, who was a few years removed from a couple of years ago, this is going to be a player that put up some commendable numbers in junior hockey. Now he is going to be in the minors with the Vegas Golden Knights. So Sloan Stanek, that is going to be a guy that you are going to watch out for in the ECHL. When it comes to the Tahoe Night Monsters, this is going to be a situation where goaltending-wise, you're going to have, you have 14 players who are signed to ECHL contracts. Then you have your two goalies who are going to come from the Golden Knights system, Jordan Papirny and Jesper Veckman. Those are going to be those two guys. Defensively, you're going to have Arthur Kulach, and you're going to have Sam Mayer. And then you're going to have 5 forwards who are going to kind of be on two-way deals. Bear Hughes, Jet Jones, Joe Fleming, Simeon Pennard, and Sloan Stanek. And that's going to be the guys that are going to be at least somewhat affiliated with the ECHL and the AHL. Or they're going to be on a prospect watch and going to be ranked on the prospects here with the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, with about a minute left here on the show, I did say that if there was any player who is signed to ECHL contract that I did want to mention, I would do it now. And that one player I do want to mention is forward Luke Adam. Now, Luke Adam, he is a veteran forward. He was drafted by the Buffalo Sabres back in 2008. He has played all over the world, and the veteran forward is here in Tahoe as that veteran leadership type of role. So it's kind of cool to see a guy who was drafted all those years ago to still be an active presence, and he's going to be that veteran role in the ECHL. So Luke Adam would be the notable name signed to an ECHL contract with the Tahoe Night Monsters. So this is Vegas Hockey Hub. I'm your host, Ian Rakelli. And until next time, go Night Monsters, go.
PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching.
Vegas Hockey Hub with Ian Rakelli. The guy is just a fountain of knowledge when it comes to sports and hockey. We're looking forward to many more years of podcasts with Ian Rakelli, and you can tune into his show. Again, as you all know, prconnectionsradio.com is where you can listen and watch these shows. And so we are very grateful to have Ian Rakelli as part of our network, bringing that sports angle to our network. We have such a diversity of shows at prconnectionsradio.com, something for everyone. So if you're into hockey, tune into Vegas Hockey Hub with Ian Rakelli. We're going to take a short break to honor another sponsor, and we'll be back with Dana Does Voices. Really excited to hear a voice actress who stands head and shoulders above so many. Stay tuned.
Did you know your clothing could help balance your body's pH levels? Our cutting-edge fabric technology naturally promotes optimal pH balance, helping you feel energized, refreshed, and at your best every day. Use promo code PRTalk for more info. Tap the link in the description or contact our experts at 702-445-9488 to learn more.
All right. Well, Dana Wall Oakley, the host of Dana Does Voices. How's everything going, Dana?
Fabulously, Guy, fabulously. I've been watching, and the marathon has been a joy.
Yes, it has. We've gotten pretty good at this, haven't we, through the years,
Yes.
Dana?
This is the 8th one that I've been involved with so far, because we do 3 a year. And this is our Memorial Day one for this year. And we've had a bunch of great shows, a lot of our new ones too. And,
Yes. So, yeah, along with being a voice actress and having a show on our network, of course, Dana Wall Oakley is the Chief Operations Officer of PR Connections. And so she's that person behind the scenes that's helping to make all this happen. And so these are, when we get done with these, Dana, I feel like we learn something from each experience and that they're just getting better and better over time.
Yes, I agree. There's always something that we pick up and do better the next time.
Yes, and I always appreciate your commitment to handling things behind the scenes. And so you look at a podcast like this where we're presenting all these people, but I guess a lot of people don't recognize how many things are going on behind the scenes to make this happen. The scheduling, the way that we put the studios together to be able to present this, making sure that we get the guests on air. And of course, because we're always doing things related to the internet, we are always checking to make sure that people have a good internet connection. There are just so many components that go into putting something like this on.
Oh yes, good lighting and making sure that when we have ads that those videos are available for us to play and that it goes smoothly from one thing to the next. I have a separate testing studio that everybody comes into first so I can make sure that they are ready to go. And sometimes lighting can be an issue and we don't want people sitting what looks like they're in the dark and you can't really see them. So, and sometimes the internet can be finicky. So mine just went out twice in the half an hour while I was waiting to come over here. And I really was concerned about, oh, goodness, is it going to stay on when I do my show? So sometimes technology, we love it, but it can be really finicky. So,
yes, it can. And when we rely on that, right,
yes.
Dana? And that's the thing about having an internet-focused network, which so many are nowadays, or channels. People have their channels. Yes, we are at the mercy of the internet gods, as I like to say a lot of times. We always pray that the internet gods are going to be good to us when we host one of these.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah, I always do a little hoo-yah, so that it goes well, because I don't want the host to have a bad connection while I'm streaming them. And of course, for my own and your own, we want it to be good, right? You know, because when the shows look good, then we look good, and we have a great network.
Yeah, yes, we do, Dana, and you have a lot to do with that. And in addition to doing a lot of things behind the scenes to help our network run well, you also have your own podcast. Dana Does Voices, and I talked about you being a voice actress. Maybe you can share with the audience what a voice actress is.
Aha. A voice actress or voice actor lends their voice to either commercials or an animation. I've been doing the voiceover you've heard today with the Envision You ad that you saw. That was my voice. Our intros and outros, that's my voice. So behind the scene, I like to be behind the scenes. So it's a person who's generally behind the scenes. You don't see them, but you hear their voice. Famous voiceover artists, from cartoons like Mel Blanc, and he was the man of 1,000 voices. And so I've been playing around with doing different voices for myself on my own. And you gave me this opportunity to do a podcast that would highlight my scripts that I write and provide the voices for. Eventually, I'd like to do some of these in an animated format and have the voices, have it be kind of like a cartoon where there's different voices. So that's what a voiceover person, it lends their voice to a media, either a commercial or an animation, something along those lines.
Yeah, I think we've all heard voice actors, and we may not recognize, and again, because it's such a behind the scenes thing and the person's voice isn't really, Fred Flintstone is a character, but you don't know, right, who the person was who lent their voice to be Fred Flintstone, or so many of these iconic characters, as you mentioned, or even the person that has their voice behind the scenes for the commercial ads or the outros and intros, as Dana had mentioned. So yes, it's definitely something. I listen to a lot of Audible, and I just wonder about the people who are reading these books that I listen to. Like, what do they look like? Who are they? Yes. Because you never know. They do such an amazing job with being able to bring a book to life. But a lot of times I just wonder, who is this person? I wish I could see the person behind the scenes. And so we
Yes.
give you a chance to do that here with this podcast.
Yeah, because generally people who do voiceover aren't doing it with a video camera on them, unless you're on a famous popular movie where they're doing behind the scenes stuff and they're recording you. But most people, they're in their own little studio where they have their blocked walls up, the padded walls to block out sound and sound good, and they're just doing their own. They get a script and they do the reading and they send it off, and yeah, and I know some of the people that I went through such a voice for my voice training. They do audio books, so that is something that I thought about getting into also.
Yeah, very popular nowadays because especially auditory learners like myself. I mean, it's just perfect, right? I just put the put the book on in my car or wherever I am, and again, it does. Those voice actors or actresses really do bring life to it. That's what keeps you interested. I mean, the verbiage, of course, you want to hear what was written in the book, but the fact that they can bring it to life where you can really picture what's happening is just fantastic. And again, you being the voice of the network and just bringing that excitement, that good voice to match with the great product that we're presenting on our network. I mean, we greatly appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
So
Yeah, it's fun to do.
So I'm going to step away and give you a chance to present Dana Does Voices here at prconnectionsradio.com.
Thank you. Hi there. For Dana Does Voices today, this is a special marathon episode, and I am actually going to be doing 2 different scripts depending on the time. Love this first one because I love reporters. You've heard my work. I do a series. This is the first one for my Penny the Penguin series. Yes, I love penguins. And we have the Daily Squawk with Penelope Perkins Penguin. And this script has 3 characters: the narrator, Penny, and Tickle Toes Jones. I hope you enjoy. We join investigative reporter Penelope Perkins Penguin hot in pursuit of the next big story for the Penguin newspaper, the Daily Squawk. Today, she's meeting with her informant, the squid, Tickletoes Jones, who works as a janitor at the Seahorse Racing Track. Apparently, there's been some insider betting and reports of fish roid use in the racing seahorses. Penny is diligently tracking down the facts to expose this scandal. Penny swims up to the stables and sees TTJ sweeping the track with a seaweed broom. He sees her and waits, leaning on his broom as she approaches. Yo, Triple P, how's it fishing? Swimmingly, Tickletoes, swimmingly. What's this I hear about the codfather, Big Mike, betting against his own horses and ensuring that they lose so he wins big? Shh, yo, Chicky, not so loud. Folks hears you talking about that, I lose my head, like literally. That Big Mike's a killer whale swordfish mix. Weird combination. You don't mess with Big Mike. Be cool. Meet me at the Ice Cap Cafe at 6. I'll give you the scoop. Later, at the Ice Cap Cafe, Penny and Tickletoes can be seen enjoying the catch of the day. Spit it, Tick. What's going on at the track? Okay, I ain't saying I know for sure, but I seen the doc for Big Mike coming out the stables and giving weird shots to the sea stallions. They get all run down and can't run fast no more. Looks a little fishy to me, you know what I'm saying? Did you ask the doc what the shots were? No way, man. I ain't got no death wish. It ain't none of mine, never mind, Then why are you telling me about it? Well, it ain't right, ain't it? The way they treating them horses. Don't give them no rest. Working them to the bone, even when they's carrying. What do you mean carrying? Do they wear guns while they race? No, Triple P. Pregnant, Chicky, pregnant. These the dude horses, right? So they's be carrying the babies. Run them all pregnant and stuff so they can't run so good. Means they lose, and Big Mike betting against him means he wins, right? Ain't it illegal to bet against your own studs? Well, that's what I'm trying to determine. Not sure if it's illegal so much as really, really unethical. Although, if he's doping the horses, that is illegal. I need to find some proof. What do you think I'm here for, girl? I got you that proof. See this needle thing? Doc left it behind last week by accident. I picked it up. You take this to the cops and have it tested. Leave me out of it. I don't be messing with Big Mike, but I don't want him hurting them seahorses no more. Penny put a neoprene thin glove on and took the needle from Tickletoes Jones. She placed it in a Ziploc evidence bag she happened to have in her purse, closed it up, and put the bag back. That's excellent, Tickletoes. I owe you one. Lunch is on me. I'll make sure I don't mention your name. You know I protect my sources. Anytime, Triple P. Anytime. I hate that Big Mike huge. You bring him down and we're even. I got to get back to work. Don't want no one getting suspicious when I ain't where I'm supposed to be. Thanks again, Tick. She is talking to his back as he swims out the door of the cafe. She continues the conversation to herself. This is going to be epic. My editor is just going to love this. It's worth the front page, maybe even a Purlitzer. Penny took the needle and syringe from Tickletoes Jones to her source at the Penguin Police Lab. They confirmed it contained a seaweed-based cocktail of a drug known to be used for causing seahorses to experience extreme fatigue as well as aggressiveness, making them hard to handle. This in turn caused them to lose their races. Triple P, or Penelope Perkins Penguin, crack investigative reporter for the Penguin newspaper The Daily Squawk, became the most famous penguin reporter ever when she wrote the huge expose proving the codfather killer whale swordfish mix, Big Mike, was involved in the doping scandal. Big Mike was arrested, executed, and turned into fish fillets, which were served at, you guessed it, the Ice Cap Cafe, proving the old adage that the penguin is mightier than the swordfish. And that is the Daily Squawk. We have another one for you today. It is number 4 in the Bobby Tucker series. And Bobby is my fun and flamboyant reporter on the street. This one, number 4, is Color Therapy Month. I hope you enjoy. This one has 4 different characters. So we'll see if I can distinguish them, and you can tell who they are. Hey, this is Bobby Tucker again. It's another special month. Can you guess what it is? That's right. It's Color Therapy Month. Color therapy has been around for thousands of years, used as a method for energy healing. Colors can be used to soothe or excite, energize, or anger. How do you use color around you? Whether it's on your walls, your furniture, or your body, color is vital to a calm, peaceful life. That's why we have Color Therapy Month. It's great to use colors in therapy. Why, even my therapist's office is a nice, soothing color of blue, so I can keep calm when I'm freaking out on her. I mean, you can see I'm wearing a power suit of bright fuchsia, so I can exude confidence and power and be fabulous. I'm headed out into the field to see whether or not the spiritually conscious community is taking this seriously. I'm going to start, like I usually do, with my neighbor Bonnie to see if she is aware of how to affect her world using colors. I'm sneaking in the front door again. Why it's always unlocked, I'll never know. I'm heading up the stairs to the bathroom. She's always in the bathroom. I think she's a little OCD with this bathroom stuff. Can you say fetish? Let's go ahead and surprise her again. Bonnie! You again? I see her in the bathroom again, decorating. You must be aware of Color Therapy Month. You pervert! Oh my God! I've got to start locking my front door. What the hell do you want this month? We just want to see if you know how to use colors for therapy for Color Therapy Month. Oh, well, yes, actually. As you can see, I'm redecorating my bathroom to use to good effect not only my favorite color, blue, but to complement its many shades with this soothing color, lilac, with highlights of bright pink. It allows me to stay calm when you come busting in here unannounced. Wonderful! Redecorating to use complementary colors to say calm is a fabulous way to celebrate Color Therapy Month. Yes, but you're testing that calm right about now, Bobby, so vacate post-haste, why don't you? Before I get my attack dog Fluffy up here, you freak! Beautiful! Bonnie knows about Color Therapy Month. Let's head out and see if, by chance, ordinary people on the street know about Color Therapy Month. I have a feeling this random woman in the gorgeous sea green skirt suit walking her poodle in a matching outfit knows about the importance of colors. Pardon me, ma'am, do you know it's Color Therapy Month? Of course I do, you strange little man. I am a color therapist. Magnificent! Maybe you can tell my listening audience the best way to use colors to enhance their lives. Certainly. The use of color is a truly holistic therapy, which dates back thousands of years. It is the color energy from light that is used. Used in the right way, color can have a profound and healing effect on us as humans, as well as the animals who share our lives. Pick a strong color and accent it with something calming. The color you pick and the color you accent it with affect how you feel. Your fuchsia suit is a perfect color for your personality. It says you're flamboyant but strong. Good choice of accent color too. Obnoxious but bold. Thanks. Pick a color and accent it with something calming. Got it. This is fabulous. Excellent. Now, if you'll please excuse me, I'm late for an appointment. A color therapy appointment? No. I'm due for my weekly Brazilian wax, and Fifi here will be getting her weekly mud mask. Okay, so now we're going to call my Aunt Millie. She's 85 and has been a Reiki master for 60 years. Does she know it's Color Therapy Month? Let's find out. Ring, ring. Hi, Aunt Millie. What are you up to? Hi, Bobby. Oh, nothing. Just making a rainbow quilt for my new grandbaby. My son's wife had her fourth baby yesterday, and I haven't quite finished the quilt. It's all pastels. I just love colors. How are you, Bobby? What's up? I'm good, Aunt Millie. It's Color Therapy Month, and I'm just calling around to see if people know about it and how to use colors in their lives. Did you know it was Color Therapy Month? Oh, of course I do, Bobby. Having been a Reiki master most of my life, I'm fully aware of the best use of color therapy. It's very important to get your colors done and wear the right color for your aura and personality. I once had this old guy for a client that absolutely insisted on wearing the most horrible color of green, and he was always sick. It just wasn't doing that old guy any good to wear green all the time. But he was in the hospice and he was dying, and he was, oh, that's fabulous, Aunt Millie. Always wear the right color for your aura. Anything else? Oh, of course, Bobby. If you surround yourself with the proper colors in your house, you'll be able to enhance peace and tranquility. For example, I have the most luscious combinations of purples and yellows in my living room. Once a boyfriend, for some ungodly reason, bought me an end table with the most eye-jarring chartreuse. It just didn't go with my decor at all. But thankfully, we broke up not long after. But it wasn't because of the table, although it might have been. Okay, Aunt Millie, good. Know the colors that feel good around you. Anything else? Oh, of course, sweetie. One of the best ways to celebrate Color Therapy Month is to have a color party. Come on over tonight for my chakra chromotherapy party. We're going to paint ourselves for our chakras. It's going to be so much fun. Just like that time I went on that color run into India and got covered with all that paint, and then it went down my, okay, Aunt Millie, count me in, and good for you. Sounds like you know all you need to do to be surrounded by the right colors for peace and harmony in your life. That's all I have for now about Color Therapy Month. Do you know how to use colors for physical, emotional, or mental healing purposes? I hope so. Tune in next month for another special month. It's Candy Month. Do you have a favorite candy? No? Why not? Candy is yummy and also good for your soul. Don't believe me? Find out next month. This is Bobby Tucker tuning out. And that was script number 2. We're just going to do the 2 scripts today. Thanks for tuning in to Dana Does Voices. We'll see you next time.
I'll enjoy the stories, Dana.
Thank you.
So where do you come up with the inspiration for these?
Oh, that is a fabulous question. They really, sometimes I'm talking to someone, I'll get an idea. I like to do, some of our shows earlier today were talking about Toastmasters, and I've been a Toastmaster. And generally for a meeting, we'll find a theme. There's something special every single day. So for Bobby Tucker, I get ideas from looking at the calendar for special months or special days. And of course, Penny is a penguin. I love penguins, and I have several penguin stories that I love and I've been working on. And for some reason, I've noticed that I do a lot of reporters, and so it just seemed to make sense to have a reporter that's a penguin. And how else could you call the paper she works for but the Daily Squawk? So she's an investigative reporter in Antarctica, and she finds those important stories. There's 2 or 3 more stories that I'm working on for that series, so you'll hear more about Penny as time goes on. And I just think either talking to somebody, like my husband gave me the idea for my teddy bear stories, Rory. I think I've read, you know what? I don't know if I've read any of Rory's stories for Dana Does Voices. I'm writing a book about Rory, and he's my homicidal teddy bear. So if you're anywhere near his cave, watch out. You probably won't get past it. It's a comedy horror series. I love to write comedy. So anything that strikes my fancy, that's kind of funny. Sometimes I get a little caught up in what's next, or I'll be writing a story and then get brain freeze, writer's block, if you will. And, I just either have a conversation with someone, or I'll play a game. I love to play Minecraft, which opens up my little creative blocks there, and opens up one side of my brain to the other. They just come from everywhere.
Yes, and I've heard so many of them, and I really, for people out there who've never done what Dana just did, to be able to go into different characters, to change your voice. I mean, that is not an easy thing to do. And you had mentioned that you've been trained in this. I mean, you've had
Yes.
actual training in how to be a voice actor.
Yes, I did the regular commercial voiceover training, and years ago I did a voiceover class at the college, and I joined a group called Vegas Voice Actors, and it was a hobby group, and we did different scripts on the radio each week, which really helped me to establish different voices. So the Such a Voice training was great for knowing how to do the inflections and when to pause and when not to. And the hobby group helped me with doing the different accents and voices, and just having that fun creativity. And they also allowed me to do some scripts, which really did help me open up that you're a writer part of my brain, my personality, my creativity. I really enjoy putting together the stories, whether I read the scripts or not. I had fun writing them. And now I'm the only one doing all the voices. And it really isn't easy. Normal voiceovers normal voiceover artists in a cartoon only do, if they're doing multiple voices, they don't do them back and forth with themselves. They do all of the voices for all the lines for that one character, and then they do all the lines for the next character, and then editing puts them together. I love trying to go back and forth and keep that voice while I'm reading the one script, especially on my podcast, Dana Does Voices.
And when can people tune into your podcast?
Oh, holidays. Right now I'm doing major holidays. I haven't been really consistent with a particular day. I am working on getting the Bobby Tucker monthly scripts the last day of the month. That is something I need to be consistent. I asked my other hosts to be consistent. I probably should make myself be consistent. But right now it's major holidays. I did just have St. Patrick's Day, Easter. I had one out for the first day of spring. And then the next one coming up should be, I have an idea for Flag Day, so we'll see if that idea gets if I don't get writer's block and I get that one out. But anywhere, anytime you can go and watch any of the past episodes, as Guy was saying earlier, on our audio platforms and on our YouTube PR Connections, or I'm also streaming when I do my setup. It's also on my Oakwall Studios YouTube. So I do have I do have Oakwall Studios is my business, and eventually we'll have a studio where we do our work. That's my big vision, is to have a studio.
Yes, and of course you can always listen to the shows at prconnectionsradio.com. And as I was talking with Sid earlier during Thinking into Results and saying that he's had some pretty phenomenal results, even though you're not podcasting as often as he is, your numbers of downloads worldwide are also really impressive. And I think that really speaks to the new media, where it's, people have preferences of things, and us using this audio streaming, having all these videos also available on audio streaming, I think is going to give people lots of other parts of the world, many countries, the opportunity to hear great shows like yours. Yes,
thank you. It is, the audio only, that's where voiceover shines, because, and I'm not doing AI. You can tell when I do the video version that it is me reading all those parts. So AI is great. But as a voiceover artist, I like getting my own voice in there.
Yeah, well, I keep up the amazing work, Dana. Again, behind the scenes and in front of the camera. And I know we've got a lot of big things going on our network. Looking forward to our next marathon. I guess that would be Labor Day weekend, right? Will be our next. We do 3 a year.
Yep, Sunday it'll be. They're on Sunday, except for the New Year's Day one, which is always on New Year's Day. But yeah, the next one will be the day before Labor Day, which is, I think it's August 31st this year. Labor Day is early.
Right. So here we are. Yeah, it'll come in a snap.
It will. I know. Before we know it.
To think that we are going to be heading into our 9th marathon at that point. But yes, we just greatly appreciate your support, Dana, both as a podcaster on the network, as well as the behind the scenes things that you do as COO.
Thank you, Guy. Thank you. It is magnificent. It's a joy. Thank you.
All right. Well, keep up the great work, Dana. And we are near the end of the marathon, Memorial Day weekend marathon here at prconnectionsradio.com, the voice of new media. We hope you have enjoyed all the different shows that we presented today. I did want to let you know about a brand new show that will be coming to our network soon. It's going to be called Briscoe Bridge to Foster Care in Nevada. And it's going to be hosted by a man named Trenton Briscoe. And he is a foster care advocate, just a great person. And it's, aside from our other nonprofit show that we have on the network, The Business of Giving, which is specific to the Cause Marketing Chamber of Commerce, an organization that brings the for-profit and nonprofit sectors together. This is a nonprofit that deals specifically with children in foster care. This show is going to be geared around that. So stay tuned for it, as well as, again, so many new shows that we're going to be introducing to the network. And we're also running out a lot of shorts on our social media platforms. We'd like you to check those out. Shorts are an opportunity for you to get short clips of these podcasts. And because we have so many on our network, we have a lot of shorts that we're going to be presenting. So check our social media platforms for those. Again, visit prconnectionsradio.com for all of our archives. And you can also visit all of these audio streaming platforms that I've been talking about throughout the day. So our presence is just growing. We're doing more and more in-person events. We've got an event that's coming up this Friday with an organization called the Happiest Hour. It's a business networking group that meets regularly. They do huge mixer events, and we will be doing, I think, our 4th live podcast from the Happiest Hour. So these in-person events are just other ways for us to be able to interview people, for the community to learn about the things that we do. We showcase business owners. Now, there's going to be a lot more of that you're going to be seeing with our network over the next 6 months to a year. We're going to be doing more of these community and business-oriented events. So we truly are operating, as was talked about earlier, that hybrid, being in person and online. Our biggest presence, of course, is online because this is where the majority of our shows go. But also, we are really working to make ourselves a part of the culture and the fabric, specifically of the Las Vegas community, through these in-person podcasts that we're going to be hosting. So stay tuned for more updates about free local events that we're going to be participating in. And again, hope you enjoyed our marathon. Look forward to seeing you all again in August 31st, which is going to be the Labor Day Marathon. I'm sure we'll have new shows that we'll be displaying for you during that, as well as our existing podcasters. Again, big shout out to everyone from PR Connections that participated in this, and hope you enjoyed watching our shows. Take care of yourselves and have a happy Memorial Day. See you soon.
PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.